Civic was my adolescence. So I've had depression and anxiety my entire life, and I don't know that I would have survived high school without Civic. I had a very difficult time just in general with my mental health, and Civic was my safe haven. It was a place where I had friends, where I had support, where I could really be myself. I really don't know what kind of quality of life I would have had without Civic. And so when I moved back here as an adult, I really wanted to come back to Civic. Civic saved my life.
Nothing's better than this.
It's the Civic Theater Show from Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette, Indiana.
Nothing's better than this.
I'm Jono.
Nothing's better than this.
Theater, or at least performance, exists at many levels, starting when performing for parents and family in your living room, progressing to drama clubs and theater programs in high school and college, and culminating as a professional at the West End in London or on Broadway in New York City. So, where does community theater fit in? Let's come back to that. One of the recurring themes here on the Civic Theater Show has been how getting involved in theater can change your life for the better by finding your people and finding yourself. Caty Natt, who stars this month as Ernestine in the heartwarming play Birthday Candles, shares how performing with Civic Youth Theater gave her the courage and strength to combat depression as a teenager. As an adult, Caty has graced our stage in Murder on the Orient Express, Baskerville, a Sherlock Holmes mystery, Dead Man's Cell Phone, Clue, The Play That Goes Wrong, and Psycho Beach Party. In our current show, Birthday Candles, how does Caty handle being on stage for all 87 pages of the script, with lines to memorize on every page but one? The director of our play is Kristine Holtvedt. She directed a number of original plays as a member of Circle Repertory Company in New York City. She's also directed at the Princeton Repertory Theater Company and the Atlantic Theater Festival, and at theaters in New Jersey and New Mexico. As a member of the Actors Equity Association, Kristine has appeared off-Broadway and at theaters in Chicago, Toronto, and Indianapolis, to mention just some of her long experience in our craft. Recently head of the acting program and an associate professor at Purdue University Theater, Kristine is now the director for Birthday Candles here at Civic Theater. So she seemed like the ideal person to ask about the levels of theater, from amateur to pro. What is the importance of community theater? With Caty Natt, here's Kristine Holtvedt.
Everything's new, but I still come back to you. Suns turned into moons. It's just like passing through.
I never performed in my family living room. I never did that, so I'm a little out of date with that. I don't know. There are levels, and it has to do with training and opportunity to act in different venues. There is Broadway, there's London Theater, and I think they're very comparable because I've seen things in London and a lot in Broadway. I grew up on Long Island, and we went in to see plays growing up, and then I lived in Manhattan for 10 years while I was pursuing a theater, an acting career. And I would say, in terms of talent and ability and expertise, Broadway is the pinnacle, but talent is talent. And I have seen very many talented student productions and community theater productions. I think we've got a very talented cast here. And in fact, I didn't have to give Kyle, who is playing Kenneth, or Caty, who is playing Ernestine, much direction at all because they have such good instincts and they know how to move on stage. Whereas with other of the performers, I had to really teach them how to move, teach them how to speak, and give them more of the basics that I didn't have to give with Caty or Kenneth at all. And Caty and Kenneth kept bringing in choices that I thought were really excellent. So the thing about directing is it's 80% casting, because if you cast the right people, there's very little you have to do. They have the right feel for the characters, and there's the right chemistry among the actors. And I have always prided myself on casting well.
Talent is talent.
Talent is talent.
You cast Caty for a show 6 years ago, right? It was Sense and Sensibility. It was going to be in the second half of our 2019-2020 season. It was going to open in April 2020. Of course, we know what happened to that show.
Yeah.
Tell us about the show that didn't go on. You talk about casting, and you've cast Caty as the lead in Birthday Candles. So that's why I wanted to ask about, you've cast Caty before, but didn't get to finish the process.
Right. We had about 2 weeks of rehearsal.
Yeah, we had 2 weeks of rehearsal, and RIP that show always for me, because Eleanor Dashwood is my dream role. It is it. So I got that and was so excited. And there were other things about that was also so exciting. We had a dialect coach, which is something I hadn't had since college. We were going to learn how to do Regency dance. So there were multiple things about that production, in addition to it being Eleanor Dashwood, that I was really, really excited about. And, for the 2 weeks of rehearsal, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
We seemed like we were going to really gel as a cast, but alas, it was not to be.
We thought we would come back after a week or two, but yeah, alas, it was not to be.
And then they tried to reschedule it a couple of times, because we all thought, oh, the pandemic won't keep going this long.
Right.
Surely by the summer we'll be able to do it. No.
Yeah.
So it just never ended up happening, unfortunately.
Yeah. Huge disappointment.
But you did do the role.
I did, yes. Acorn Players did Sense and Sensibility, and I played Eleanor for them in very, very different circumstances. But it was nice to actually get to play the part and do somewhat of what it would have been before. So it was like 4 years later I got to do it.
So you got 2 weeks of rehearsals for that show before we had to shut everything down.
Right.
Was that the first time the two of you had worked together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Caty, did you know that Kristine was going to be the director of Birthday Candles before you said, I want to audition for that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I knew. And so, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, she's cast me before. So, maybe she'll still be interested in casting me again. So I did know that and was looking forward to having the opportunity to actually work all the way through the process with her.
And Caty and Jordan, her husband, who is our lighting designer, gave up a trip to New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah, to do the show, for which I am eternally grateful, because she was my first choice. I'm very excited to work with her.
That's dedication.
She's doing excellent work, I have to say.
Yes, I was delighted. So I, of course, have nothing to do with the casting process. I do sound. That's my role. I was absolutely delighted when I saw the cast list come out with Caty's name on the top, because it has been my privilege to be part of several productions that Caty has been in. This is a challenging role for you, but let's come back to that, can we? Kristine, you mentioned casting. Do you have a particular process for how you look at the actors who are auditioning and say, okay, this person will be perfect for that, this person maybe not so much?
Yeah.
What's your process?
Well, there's two parts to casting. You see the actor read the role, and if they fit your vision, that's an excellent sign. And then the next part of the process is to pair them up with other actors. And if there's chemistry between them, that's where you want to go, because there needs to be chemistry between the characters, and actors will bring that organically. So I'll have somebody read and then pair them up. Although with this process, I think we were pairing up pretty quickly. Because normally I will do an initial audition with actors reading part of the script, and then at the callbacks, put them in pairs and see what chemistry happens. But I think we did that. Didn't we do that? No, we had callbacks for this. Yeah.
We did.
And that's when I put them together. So yeah. And there was a lot of good energy between she and Kyle. And there was a lot of good energy between you and Eli. We have two Elis in the cast.
It's a little confusing.
The Eli who plays Matt.
The Eli who plays Matt, Eli Widmer. And yeah, he and Caty meshed really nicely. So that was really a positive sign. And I relied on Raquel. Raquel is a wonderful artistic director. And I do have to say, I think the Civic Theater is one of the most professional community theaters I've ever been involved with. And her standards for the entire production are very high. So I trust her a lot. And we have the same vision about what good acting is and what good theater is. So she helped me with, guiding me with casting choices.
Yeah, we're referring to Raquel Lopez, Civic's producing artistic director. She's the boss. So we've talked about levels of theater, from living room to Broadway in London. And with community theater there somewhere in the middle. I want to ask about your experience at the college level, because you've been head of acting at Purdue University's Division of Theater and Dance.
Right.
In theater at the college level, where you've got students who are majoring in acting, are there auditions or are there assignments?
No, there are auditions for every production. When I was there, I'm retired now. I retired in 2024. The last thing I did there was the musical Bright Star, but there are auditions and callbacks for every show. When I was there, things have changed now. Laketta Carpenter is now the head of acting.
Here at Civic, each show usually attracts a mix of returning actors and first-timers. And most of them, whether they have experience on our stage or whether they are coming to theater for the first time, are, of course, typically non-professionals. So I want to ask for birthday candles, what surprised you or who surprised you during the audition process?
I would say Oliver.
I was like, she's got to say
Yeah,
Oliver.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Because Oliver really, I was in the callback with Oliver, and I'm like, they are the character.
Yes,
they
yes.
are this person.
Yeah.
They need to get cast. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oliver's
Yeah.
main character is Joan.
Yes.
And the scene where Joan accidentally hits you.
Yeah.
She threw herself into it. She didn't hit you, but she threw herself on the ground when she was so horrified at what she had just done. And Raquel and I looked at her and went, yes.
It was, even for me as an actor who's been in a lot of auditions and callbacks, I was very impressed with the commitment. It takes a lot of courage to be that committed, and especially because it was her first time auditioning for Civic. I can't even imagine going into a company of people that you've never auditioned for before and showing that level of commitment. I was so impressed with that.
Yeah.
You just alluded to the moment where Oliver's character, Joan, ends up not quite slapping, bashing her hand accidentally against Ernestine.
Mm-hmm.
Was that moment in the script?
Well, not exactly. No, the script says that when she bows or introduces herself, she knocks over a lot of the stuff for baking the cake. And that's happening upstage on the counter. And I knew I didn't want to stage this important meeting at that place. I wanted to stage it around the family table. So I came up with, when she bows, she's going to accidentally hit Ernestine. And sometimes she hits you in the nose, sometimes it's the mouth. And we've worked on that stage combat every night to get it right. So, yeah. So I did change that.
And it's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
How do you go about deciding when the script needs some adaptation?
I also adapted when the script says that Matt touches your hand, and you refer to that later. But when we were doing the intimacy, I suggested that he kiss your hand because I find that so romantic. So we've changed that line. You kissed my hand, and whatever you say after that. And then he kisses the baby's hand, and then he kisses her hand later. It says something about the character when they do that.
Caty, talking about what we call a stage combat. In this case, it's just Oliver's hand comes across your face.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think about some of the other roles that you've played here at Civic Theater, including shows like The Play That Goes Wrong, where there's a lot of physical comedy in that, and also roles that you've played with different dialects. Was it Baskerville that you had the Eastern European accent?
Baskerville, I had, I believe, 15 different characters with 5 or 7 different accents.
Wow.
And actually, I thought about this. I did 5 shows in a row with accents, starting with Baskerville. And then I did an Eastern European one for Dead Man's Cell Phone, Swedish for Murder on the Orient Express, British again for The Play That Goes Wrong, and then British for Eleanor Dashwood in Sense and Sensibility. So it's only actually last year for Psycho Beach Party and for this show that I haven't had an accent. And I'm like, what is this? This is so weird.
Clown was being typecast as a police officer. He had 3 shows in a row where he played a cop, and you for your accent. How did you discover the talent for accents?
I've just always kind of wanted to imitate people. I became a big Anglophile when I was 12 years old and went to London for the first time. And so it started there with the English accent and wanting to consume a lot of media that had English accents. And then it just kind of branched out, especially as I traveled more. I really love to travel. And so I was really fascinated by other languages and the way that people speak. And I took a voice and dialects class in college, which was really fun and got to really formalize some of these things. And it's just something I break out into in my everyday life. I just randomly.
Ask,
I do.
You?
Mm-hmm.
You break into an accent in real life with someone who doesn't know you, or with people who know you, or both?
Both. I especially like to do it so I teach television production at Purdue, and I like to do it with my students. Just at random moments, go into accents because they're always so surprised and so, amused. So I do. Just at random points, at random moments. I would never say that I could fool somebody. I don't think I'd ever try and convince someone that I was actually from these places, but it is something that I do and that I get a real kick out of.
So tell us, maybe in an Eastern European accent.
Not to put you on the spot.
On the spot. What's the difference for you between acting in comedies versus acting in dramas like Birthday Candles?
Well, when you act in comedy, it is much easier to know that the audience is reacting the way that you want them to. They laugh. Versus in drama, they may be, very engaged and really believe you, but there's no external sign. So comedies is nice because there is external sign that they are enjoying themselves and that they are getting what you're trying to come across. But, drama is also very cathartic, very nice to...
Katie, you don't have to do that the whole time.
Okay.
As much as I'm enjoying it.
Change to a French one now.
Okay, yes.
French is a little harder for me. But the thing is, once I start, I can't stop. And so thank you for stopping me there. So as I was saying, so with comedy, it's heightened in a different way. So it's very heightened, over the top, not as realistic. And like I was saying, you can tell that the audience is getting, they're laughing, they're enjoying themselves. Drama is heightened in a different way where it's, typically it's either the top or the bottom moments of people's lives. And there is something very cathartic about experiencing that and portraying that. But it is harder to gauge whether the audience is following along with you because there's not really a nonverbal way of being like, yes, I'm right there with you. It's more of an energy that you maybe feel from them. I enjoy doing both. It has actually been, this is certainly the most drama play versus comedic play that I've done in a long time. Murder on the Orient Express was a drama, but it was also an ensemble murder mystery piece, whereas a lot of what I've done has been very comedy focused. So that has also been a very interesting experience this time around.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the top and bottom of people's lives or moments in lives, that's what this show is about. Birthday Candles is about Ernestine and her family over the course of an entire century, right?
Yes.
And we first see your character, Katy, at age 17, and then she grows and lives her entire life in this play. It's a very long life. We see her over the course of about 100 years. Does the script actually specify that we see her to 107?
So that would be 90 years.
No, 90 years.
Yeah.
You can certainly draw on personal experience from being a teenager, but unless you're the world's youngest looking 88-year-old woman or 50-year-old woman, how much of yourself do you see in your character, Ernestine?
It's a mixed bag for sure. I definitely see a lot of when I was 17, I was 17-year-old Ernestine. She's very much like, I'm getting out of my Midwestern town. I'm going to see the world and do big things. Because when you're 17, all you care about is kind of the glitz and the glam. And I was very much that way. I mean, I grew up here in West Lafayette. I grew up at Civic, actually. And I was very much like, I'm getting out of West Lafayette and I'm never coming back. Well, that didn't happen. But, when you're 17, you don't, your frontal cortex isn't fully developed. You don't actually know what you're going to want later and how much joy you can find in your Midwestern town. So I really identify to that. My 17-year-old self really identify with that with Ernestine. And then what I so admire about Ernestine and what I hope to carry forward is that it's never too late for her. What I really love about the show is she does so many things, quote unquote, like after there's a big focus on in media and in life on, your 20s, maybe even your 30s, and then everything kind of drops off. I have this with my students all the time. When I tell them that I've enjoyed my 30s the most so far of any point in my life, they're like, no way. She has so many new experiences and, as she says, personal renaissances after what we would typically see. And so there's no point where it's quote unquote too late. That's something I really hope to carry forward as well is, there's a lot of life left. So while I understand she has this line, I'm 39 years old, what did I do with my time? And I kind of understand that because I'm like, I'm 36. I still feel like I'm like an 18-year-old on the inside. But it's nice to then think about how much is left and how much you can do that is outside, again, that kind of glitz and glam that your younger selves tend to think about. So that's something I hope I carry as well from Ernest. I want to be like Ernestine in that way. I aspire to be like Ernestine. So that's where, even though I haven't gotten to these ages yet or had these experiences, that's kind of what I'm drawing on this is aspirational for me.
Mm-hmm. What's been the most challenging part of playing this character who we get to see over, age 17 to age 107?
What isn't challenging about this? This is the hands down the most challenging part I've ever had. And I'm on stage the entire time.
Yes.
I'm aging over a large amount of time. I'm baking a cake because we don't have scene changes and I don't leave the set. There's all these props and costume pieces that get changed in and out. So it has been the biggest challenge. And I just have kind of had to duck my head and repetition to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Kristine, what's been your approach to directing a show like this where we don't have traditional scene changes? The lights blink, but they really just blink. We don't have extended blackouts for 30 seconds or a minute,
right,
where the set pieces change and where characters go and put on different costumes.
Well, the blink is my concept between the scenes because it indicates a change in time. And, the actors have to go from like the age of 17 and then in the next scene, how old are you?
18.
18, which is not a big change, but there are big changes later.
Yeah.
So
the next blink you jump.
Yeah,
you jump
18 to 39.
Yes.
Yeah.
So some of them are quite a bit larger than others.
Yeah. And that blink you have teenage kids.
Yeah.
And it's easy to play young, and it's easy to play old. It's very difficult to play middle-aged because what is middle-aged? I'm 76 and I'm still standing upright. I haven't changed that much in 20 years, but I think in another 10 years, I will change a lot. So delineating the different ages physically and vocally, it's something that Caty and Kyle both brought. So I didn't have to, I maybe suggested a few things in terms of movement, and I know Raquel, she said something brilliant when you get off the platform where you need help doing that.
The kitchen part of the set is up a step.
Yes, correct. And then the table is downstage center. Other cast members don't age as much as Kenneth and Matt and Ernestine, but there is an aging process. And as I say, it's easier to have all of the energy of somebody who was a teenager, and things calm down as you get older.
You've got to get the actors to sell that they've aged through just their lines because they're not off stage long enough to put on gray hair wigs and wrinkles on their face in makeup.
Right. Yep.
The show, Birthday Candles, this play is incredibly poignant with many seemingly ordinary moments in our characters' days and years that we realize only later were significant milestones in their lives. Why did this theme appeal to you as director?
Well, first of all, the main character is a woman, and I'm always interested in a woman's story. And I found the style of it, which is, the ages go like this. I was very intrigued by the style, and I think the writing is on the surface, it is ordinary language, but there are so many poetic images in that ordinary language. I was very impressed with the writing, and so very excited. And I think you guys know that Raquel and I went to see a production of this at Cincinnati. And on many levels, we really, really enjoyed the production, and we found there were some things that we wanted to change that production had done, so we did that. And again, Raquel and I were on exactly the same page with that. Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and I think telling a story is the basis of all theater.
Yes. I've never seen a story like this one that literally spans 90 years.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful story, and to me, what makes it so moving is what seems like an ordinary moment, an everyday moment. We realize half an hour later how significant that was in Ernestine's life or in one of the characters' lives. And the challenge of portraying that over the course of a performance that's an hour and a half, without some of the tropes that we rely on, like, as I mentioned, being able to go off stage and put a wig on and paint wrinkles on your face. It just strikes me as an incredible challenge for the entire cast and for you.
And for the audience.
Yes.
The audience has to just engage, and I think they will do that. I think the actors are doing a wonderful job, and I think the story will take them.
Yeah, the playwright does give us clues in the dialogue of what's happened.
Right.
I'm thinking of a moment, and this isn't too much of a spoiler, but a moment early on when one of the characters goes off stage basically as a teenager. The lights blink to indicate time change, comes on stage, delivers one line of dialogue. The lights blink again to indicate time change.
And that's an interesting rhythm. It's not a 3-page scene, then a blink, and another 3-page scene and a blink. It's, he gave it a lot of variety to keep the energy moving forward and the audience's interest going forward.
Caty, I'd like to ask you to think back to your first performance, your first time performing in front of large numbers of people. How old were you? Who did you play?
So my first role was at Civic. It was when I was 13. I played Veruca Salt in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, a role that, my mother said I was born to play. She was not surprised at all when I got cast that way. And it actually, because I moved here in 2000, and this is 2 years later, I had to figure out how to be in front of people, basically. I knew I wanted to act. I was very enthusiastic about it, but I had basically been in a Girl Scout badge, like earning our theater badge play. So it was just, a few of our parents. And then I came to Civic. And so I had no idea what I was getting myself into with any of that. So it took a couple years of figuring out, oh, okay, this is how to be comfortable and trust other people and all of that. So there was a point in those 2 years where I thought I would never be in a show at Civic. It was never going to happen for me. And so another one of those kind of different person in my life. I'm now like, oh, honey, you don't even know. You'll be fine. So that was, Civic was my growing up, was my adolescence. Civic saved my life. Honestly. So
Civic saved your life.
Yeah, Civic saved my life.
What do you mean?
So I've had depression and anxiety my entire life, and I don't know that I would have survived high school without Civic. I had a very difficult time at my high school and just in general with my mental health, and Civic was my safe haven. It was a place where I had friends, where I had support, where I could really be myself without some of the blowback or of being
judgment.
Of being myself at my high school. And so I really don't know if I would be alive or if I was still alive, what kind of quality of life I would have had without Civic. So Civic quite literally saved my life. And so when I moved back here, as an adult, that was like one of the first things I did was come back, was let Civic know, be like, hey, I'm here. And I really wanted to come back to Civic, and especially bringing in Jordan, my husband, introducing. We moved back to town, and the very first show that I did, Adam's Family, I made sure that he was brought in as well. And now he's at Civic more than I am. He basically has lived there, especially this season. So that was very important for me to share my Civic Theater community with him and bring him into that part of my life.
I'll speak for we're delighted that you are here.
Thank you.
You say something so interesting, because I've suffered from depression and anxiety all my life. And I do know that theater attracts, as I say it, misfits and mavericks. You and I were misfits. You and I are mavericks. And there's an acceptance in theater of everyone. And so you just feel safe. And that safety gives you the courage to go out on stage and play something different. And playing something different gives you a kind of freedom, a psychic freedom. And I think that the Civic Theater has done a real service to the community in developing the children and the youth theater that it has, because it's doing that. It's not only
Yes.
making a new generation of theater goers or theater participants, but it's expanding who that child is in a very significant way.
Yes. Giving younger people the freedom to figure out who they are as people, who they want to become as grown-ups,
Right.
through acting and through participation in theater.
And learning how to work with other people, as you said, that kind of, it's not just me. I have to give to this person and give over to that person. I mean, life lessons that are taught in growing up in theater are really, really significant.
Yes. It's been a recurring theme in some of our previous conversations here about how theater for young people teaches not just practical skills like teamwork,
Right.
and memorizing and show up on time, but skills like empathy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Absolutely. Well said.
Community theater gives all of us the opportunity to perform regardless of experience. But it occurs to me that some people who like baseball might feel that going to a little league game or a college game or even a minor league professional game is just not worth their time. So why is community theater important? Because in community theater, we're not professionals.
Because it's community. It's not just community on stage or backstage. It's the audience as well. We know the people on stage, and there are people who are devoted to coming to the Civic Theater, and you develop relationships and friends, and you see people. So community theater is not just for the participants, it's also for the audience.
Yes.
And that sense of community is so essential for the health of a city, a town, whatever. You go to Broadway and you do see excellent work most of the time, not all of the time, but you don't know anyone in the audience. Whereas community theater or educational theater, for the most part, you're going to know the people who are in the audience. And so you can share that experience with them and talk about it.
And it is a shared experience, whether you're a performer or whether you've never performed. It is a participatory experience.
Yes.
See yourself here, as
And
we
so
say.
there's more than just the enjoyment of the talent and the excellence of the show. There's a kind of pride that you have that you might not have going to professional theater.
Yeah, I really like that.
This makes me think of an interaction that Abby McClure Loffman, actually, a fellow actor who abandoned us for Portland. It's fine.
But who grew up in our theater.
Yeah, we grew up in the theater together and then acted together as adults. After Murder on the Orient Express, a show that we were in together, she went to an exercise class at the YWCA, and somebody recognized her from Murder on the Orient Express. And so she was joking around. She's like, community theater actors, we're just like you. But really, like that, you don't get to have that experience. If I go see something at Elliott Hall, the actors come in, it's great, and then they go.
Mm-hmm.
But we stick around, and someone just going to an exercise class sees somebody who they saw on stage. They're a real person. They're just an everyday, and they can go up and talk to you and have that moment of connection that I don't think that at least personally, I would feel very intimidated approaching like a professional actor outside of that realm. But someone in my community who I saw and really enjoyed, I would have no trouble going up to them and saying, hey, I really liked this show. And so it does kind of show that connectivity, and also just showing people like what's possible. We're just regular people doing something we love for no money because we love doing it. And so they can do it too. It's not just something that's for people who trained in acting and are doing it professionally. So if you have a passion and you have something that you want to do, you can still do it. No, training or expertise. No equity card required.
Yes, right. Yes.
We talked about levels of theater. It occurs to me that starting in a couple or 3 years from now, we are getting a second stage. The city has purchased, we've talked about this in earlier episodes, the Lafayette Theater, which was built as a single screen movie theater 100 years ago, is going to be renovated, and Civic is going to be the primary tenant. We don't know exactly how many seats will be in the theater, but it's probably 400 plus versus our 155 seat theater now. So even within Civic, we're going to have multiple levels to aspire to. We'll have main stage shows with now several hundred people in the audience. And that hopefully will inspire even more people to come and participate and build up that level of professionalism that you talked about. Civic having a very professional level of standards.
Yes. Yeah, Raquel truly does. And I have to commend Mayor Roswarski because he obviously understands the importance of the arts.
Yes.
That the arts brings people downtown and they go to dinner or they go to a bar afterwards and they participate in the community. So it was really important. I mean, it could have been one of those touring venues. And as you say, they come, they go. It's good, but there's enjoyment, but there's no heart, whereas with community theater, there's a lot of heart.
Indeed. Yeah. It's wonderful to see people on stage who in everyday life.
Right. We forgot to mention one character.
Please.
Ottman.
Oh, yes.
Kenneth brings Ernestine in the second scene, I'm sorry, a birthday present. And it turns out to be a goldfish in a goldfish bowl. And he has named him Atman, which means the divinity within yourself and within all. And that sets up, I think, the theme of the play, which is we are all connected. We are all not only human, but there is divinity within us. And Atman changes. It's the same goldfish in the play, but, they die. So she ends up with Atman the
103rd. That is where I end the show. That's how many Atmans there have been over the course of Ernestine's life.
Yeah. And there's something that you say in that first scene, or maybe it's in a later scene. The 3-second span, I don't know how they ever found this out, but apparently goldfish have a 3-second span of awareness, and then it changes of memory, right? And you say, without a sense of history, life would have no meaning. And I think that's very thematic in the play. And Atman he's the thread swimming around in a little bowl that connects all the scenes.
Yeah.
And
the only thing that stays the same in the ever-changing tumult of the world.
Yes.
That's one of my lines about Atman.
Yes, yeah.
And actually, Kyle named the goldfish Ponyo, and wrote Ponyo has their own bio in the program.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Ponyo.
Yeah. So Ponyo, you can read all about the Ponyo's previous credits and what they are most looking forward to about the production and all of that, thanks to Kyle.
Yes. And that says everything about Kyle. He just has wonderful imagination. And there's a song that he sings to you that he brought in. This is, I want to sing this. It is the perfect song. And a director loves working with actors like that who brings in choices, and is very open to changing them if it doesn't quite fit the scene or what the director sees as necessary. But I've changed. I think with you and Kyle, mostly I've moved you around. As you say, you love all those blocking changes I've instituted. Just to make something, give it focus for the audience, but very little in terms of character or action or objective or any of those essential things.
Yes. Kyle Brown, we did visit with in one of the early episodes of this season in the podcast when Kyle was working with John Collier on Steel Magnolias.
Ah, right.
And Kyle was talking at the time about how he wants to experience every different role that there is within theater, from acting to being backstage manager to all the behind the scenes roles, stage manager, and of course now back on stage brilliantly as Kenneth in Birthday Candles. What's your favorite moment in this play?
Oh gosh, I actually think the moment that moves me the most is the last one between you and Alice. All of it comes true. It's just so poignant for me. I mean, there's so many moments, and I think one of the most tragic scenes is the scene with Madeline. And I won't give that away, but that it's a real tragedy. And it's so simply written, and so the strokes of that scene are like Japanese art, where it's the essentials of that portrait or picture or painting are given, and not a lot of details, but for that reason, it's more poignant, I think, for the audience.
Yeah, Allie plays Madeline, who is Ernestine's daughter.
Yes.
Katy, do you have a favorite moment?
Yeah, I will kind of, we had talked about a tragic moment. I have a more, happy moment. Ernestine gets proposed to, and this is personally for me my favorite moment because I proposed to Jordan, so I have never received a marriage proposal. So it's been really fun to be on the receiving end of that proposal, and it's just such a moment of joy, and that's been really a lot of fun. And another one is there's a moment with the entire family where my son Billy, we're kind of joking with him about trying to get him to admit to, is he dating somebody? And then once he says yes he is, we're doing the typical like really enthusiastic embarrassing family thing. And I really love that moment. It's just so much fun to do something that, again, kind of going along with the proposal, something that joyful, something that we're ganging up on Billy, but he's in on it too. And so we're all just having this nice family moment, learning new information, interacting with each other, celebrating something that should be celebrated. And so I always, when it gets to that part of the show, I'm like, all right, I get to have, we're going to have some fun here. It is just like a simple moment. It's just a simple conversation between family about who this son is or is not dating, but it does set up the family dynamic and is just beautiful in its simplicity and ordinariness. But
it's beautiful in its imperfection.
Yeah,
this family dynamic.
And I really like that.
Relatable, I think, as well.
And just the whole mixed bag of Ernestine's life. We get the highs, we get the lows, we get the kind of just in the middle. It's so hard to sum up a life. And that's, I think, what this show really gets at is that, it goes by so fast. It's an hour and a half. But that's the point. It's, life goes by pretty fast, and it's made up of all these different things. And what you wanted at first is not what you want later. And you have joy and you have sorrow and everything in between. And that's just what it's going to be for all of us. Everyone's life is a kind of mixed bag of human experience. And that's what the show really gets at. So I find that very affecting.
Kristine, what do you hope our audience takes with them after they see Birthday Candles?
I hope they identify with the family, as Katy was saying. I hope they're moved. I hope they find it. Laughter and tears speak to the world. And I think this play has laughter and tears in it. So I want the audience to feel those emotions and also appreciate that it's about a family.
And everything that comes with that, good and bad.
Yes. About an ordinary family.
There's beauty in the ordinary.
Well, it doesn't sound good. I hope everybody can relate to the ordinariness.
Well, our Civic's tagline for years has been "See yourself here."
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yep, that's absolutely what they're gonna do, and I hope that they kind of feel along with Ernestine, because I really want them to feel with her, react to the twists and turns of Ernestine's life, and then think about their own life in kind of a similar way and reflect on who they've been and who they want to be and the moments of their own life that they also maybe saw portrayed on stage. So I hope the audience feels that same kind of catharsis as well.
Waking up in your own promised land. Make sure you know whose hand lends a hand. Giving it the best shot you can, even if things don't go to plan. No, everything's blue, but I get stuck to you. Come on, let's start anew. It was just like passing, just like passing, just like passing through.
Caty Natt and Kristine Holtvedt. Caty plays the lead character Ernestine, and Kristine is the director of Birthday Candles, which runs through April 18th, 2026 at Civic Theater. Birthday Candles is a tender exploration of family, love, loss, and finding your place in the universe. Don't miss this one, friends. It's a celebration of real family life at every age and all its pains and triumphs. Get your tickets now at LafayetteCivic.org. Mark your calendar for season reveal at Civic, coming at 5 o'clock on May 30th. Food, live music, and a special presentation to reveal everything coming to our stage in 2026-2027, our 95th year. No tickets required, just show up. One more thing, would you please tell your friends on social media about the Civic Theater Show? And take a moment to leave a good review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Music for this podcast is licensed by Audio. That's AUDIIO.com. I'm John O. Thanks for listening. The Civic Theater Show is presented by Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette, Indiana. See yourself here.